Okay, we are, so what I intend to do today is then just kind of basically go through and overview the Parsha. There are some things that are a little bit deeper that if we have a few minutes, I'll try and get into, but mostly just kind of an overview of what this Parsha is about. This Parsha is Lech Lecha, and it's on page 54, 55. And this is where the Torah starts um, to introduce us in depth to Abraham and Sarah. These next two parshas are particularly and pretty much exclusively about them. Yitzhak also, because he's born in next week's parsha, but it's basically about Abraham and Sarah, the next two parshas. We did get introduced to them last week at the end of Parshas Noach, if you remember the Machber. And that's an important, I think it's an important thing to dwell on just a little bit, because this is where we first meet who they are. This is where we first get their names. And it indicates a little bit as to what this Parsha, Lech Lecha, is about. Because in Lech Lecha is where Hashem is now speaking to Abraham, telling him to leave his family, to leave his home place, and to go and see Eretz Israel. But what was the connection? How did Hashem come to pick Abraham? Or some people say Abraham shows Hashem that, Hashem was out there giving Lech Lecha to everybody and anybody, and it was only Hashem that answered the phone. I mean, only Abraham that answered the phone. Some people do say that. It seems to me that there is a specific reason that Hashem is picking Abraham. So I kind of go the opposite direction and say that that Hashem was really picking Abraham and focused in on Abraham per se, himself. And it's based upon the end of last week's parsha. And the end of last week's parsha, which is starts on the bottom of 50, 51, and then 52. It says, these are the chronicles of Terach. Terach begot Abraham, Nachor, and Haran begot Lot. Haran died in the lifetime of Terach's father in his native land in Ur-Kasdim. Let's pause there. What happened? The Midrash says, the Midrash says that Nimrod had captured Abraham finally after trying to chase him for a while, and had put him into the fiery furnace, because he said, if anybody who believes in Hashem and does not believe in the idols, we've got to get rid of this kind of person. So we're going to throw him in the fiery furnace. And so Haran also was Abraham's brother, and he liked Abraham, and he followed what Abraham was teaching, and he went that way. And so he was on the sidelines, kind of waiting to see what would happen if Abraham went into the fiery furnace. And I'm making this up. I think it's not inaccurate, but basically thinking, well, if Abraham makes it, then I'll be on Abraham's side. And if he doesn't make it, then I'll go on Nimrod's side. So I'll just kind of wait and see who wins the game and bet after that, right? So Abraham goes into the fiery furnace and he comes out of the fiery furnace. He's saved by Gabriel, and he goes out of the fiery furnace. It's one of the tests that they say that Abraham has. There's two versions of the test. I'll talk about this later. One's Rashi, one's Rambam. And in Rashi's test, Rashi uses this as the first of the tests of Abraham, was to go into the fiery furnace. He did. He survived it. So Haran said, fine, Abraham survived it. I'm with him. He went into the fiery furnace, toast. Because he wasn't sincere in his own belief. He was only going after what Abraham did. So therefore Hashem said, I'm sorry, not for you. So in any event, he had these three children, as we'll see now. So that's what happened to Haran. That's why he died in his father's lifetime in Ur-Kasdim. Ur-Kasdim is a reference to the fiery furnace. And Abraham and Nahor took themselves wives. The name of Abraham's wife was Sarai. The names of Nahor's wife was Milcah, and then the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and the father of Iscah. Sarai was barren. She had no child. Terach took his son Abraham and Lot, the son of Haran, his grandson, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, the wife of Abraham, his son, and they departed with them from Ur-Kasdim to go to the land of Canaan and arrive at Haran. And they settled there. And then the days of Terach were 205 years, and Terach died in Haran. So the whole family moved from Ur-Kasdim to Haran after Haran passes away. Haran had 3 kids. He had Sarai, who's also known as Iscah. He had Milcah, 2 daughters, and he had 1 son, Lot. And Terach had 3 sons, Haran, who died, and then Nahar and Avram, before he gets his hay. Avram. So what does Abraham do? He gets Nahar to act in conjunction with him and to marry the 2 orphan daughters, and to take care of the orphan son. Now, what was he doing? A kind of yibum. It's not the yibum that we have in Parshat Kitzitza after we get the Torah, where it says it's only brothers that can do yibum, right? If a man dies without children, then then his brother marries his widow. It's not that kind of yibum where the brother does it. It's also not the kind of yibum because Haran had children. He had children, so it's not that kind of yibum either. But it's what I'll call, I'll use a legal term on you, quasi-yibum. Okay, so he had this aspect of doing yibum, and what does yibum do in the overall concept of yibum? What does it do?
Keeps the line of the brother going forward.
It carries forward the line of that brother, right? Because it basically is each brother is coming from the same source. Each brother is coming from, because we use paternal lineage with regard to yibum, it's each coming from the same source. It's coming from the same father. Each brother, right? All the brothers of one father have the same father, right? So it's basically bringing from that source into the world. And so it's bringing down into the world. So it is a way to carry on the spiritual life of the deceased.
So why did Abraham have Haran do it? Why didn't he do it himself?
He didn't have Haran do it. He had Nahar marry one, and he married the other. Nahar married Milcah, and he married Sarai. Why? Why did he do it that way? Because you can't marry sisters. So that's why he was keeping the Torah even before the Torah was given. He has a spiritual understanding of what the Torah is going to be. So he's got the concept. He doesn't have the specific letter of the law, right, that was given at Har Sinai, but he has the overall spirit. We'll see in a few minutes, he's walking in front of Hashem, and so to speak, right? He's doing this before he's literally commanded to do something. He's trying to inculcate the spiritual aspects of what he believes Hashem has in mind for the world at the highest level. And what he's able to do by doing this, what he's doing by this, is he's trying to bring down and preserve the spiritual life of his brother Haran, which is a sign of Chesed shel emet. We say that, you probably heard this before when you've gone to funerals, that sometimes the rabbi will say, that you can come and bury the dead, or even to accompany the dead to the grave, is a Chesed shel emet, because it's something, notwithstanding what Yogi Berra said, that it's something that you can do for the deceased that they'll never be able to do for you. Yogi Berra said, "Yeah, I go to their funerals so they'll come to mine." Yeah, Yogi Berra was a catcher, and then he was like a sports phenomenon. He was a coach. No, that's where they probably got the name. They probably got the name of the cartoon from Yogi Berra, because he was such a personality. I mean, he was a great. I mean, he was would say all these things. Anyway, but basically the aspect is that if you go to a funeral and you accompany the dead person and you bury the dead person, that is a Chesed shel emet. And this is also a Chesed shel emet because what it's doing is carrying on the spiritual life of the deceased brother.
But Haran's spiritual life was confused. He wasn't committed.
He was
either way.
correct, but still he had a spiritual life. So it's still Abraham felt he had a duty based upon how he intuited, because Abraham intuited what the halakha should be, and then finally we get the Torah, so we get commanded, so we can see how to do it the way that Kadasa Kadin, right? But Abraham is intuiting how this works, and so he's doing this in order to fulfill this commandment. So what is this? It's tremendous chesed. So it says, how does Hashem create the world? What does he begin with? Chesed. He begins the creation of the world with chesed. So Hashem this is me, Hashem is looking for someone who is going to be the human partner, because everything that has to go on in the creation of the world has to be with Hashem, working through human beings, right? Through Moshe, through the prophets, through whoever they are. It's got to be working through human beings. And so Hashem is looking for someone to perfect the world, to maybe perfect is too strong a word, someone to save the world, as opposed to having to destroy it again, because the world is not doing so well at the time of Abraham. And so he's looking for someone who's going to be able to stop that decline and to be able to take the world in another direction. And so he's looking for someone who is going to be a Baalis Chesed, wants it to be a Baal Chesed.
Yes, well, I think even after seeing Abraham coming out alive, entering in a fiery furnace is like superb merit if you could stay out. So she's on a very high level anyway,
Yeah,
even though
that's true too. I don't know if I go in just because I saw you
the
being.
ultimate level, but it's a very high level. That's what that's
You're right. You're right. You are right.
Yeah, good point.
Good point. Okay, so that gets us to Lech Lecha. Now in Lech Lecha, Abraham has intuited what Hashem wants, but nowhere has Hashem spoken to Abraham yet until now, our Parsha. And in this Parsha is where Hashem speaks to Abraham for the first time. And he speaks to Abraham because it says, we know he did, because it says, Vayomer Hashem el Abraham, and Hashem spoke to Abraham, Lech Lecha. Lech Lecha is, of course, the same two consonants, right? The vowels are different, but it's Lamed Chaf, Lamed Chaf. Lamed is 30 and Chaf is 20. So that's 50 plus 50, which is, see, and you're not even tax lawyers, and you can do that. Good for you. And so it's 100. And how old was Abraham when he had Yitzhak? 100. So the little precursor to what's going to happen. So Hashem tells Abraham to go, and this is a very important point. And he says, I want to go for yourself from your land and from your relatives and from your father's house to the land that I will show you. He doesn't tell him where he's going. In order for someone to make profound change, one has to be willing to go into the unknown. If you know what the end is going to be, if you know what the end result is, then it's really not a change, because you're really already perceiving it from where you are. It's a change when where you end up is somewhere where you had no idea that you were going to be at the time you started the journey. And that's Avraham, right? And I think probably the people sitting around this table and then on the screen probably had that experience themselves, that they probably, if you look back from where you're sitting right now to where you started, probably you had zero idea when you started as to the fact that you'd be sitting at this table, right? Later. So that's what change, that's what really profound change requires, is a stepping into the unknown. And
we're in a rock and roll band.
right, some of us were. And so it takes, kind of having that emunah in Hashem, that I know that if Hashem is leading me in this particular direction, I know it'll be good. I don't know what it'll be, but I'm willing to go. And so that was Abraham. And so Abraham and Sarah, so they went and they go to Canaan. And of course, what happens is that they get there, they start looking at the land. Wow, this is really great. And all of a sudden, famine. You can't stay there anymore. Hashem, what are you doing? Right? I was here, and here I am. I'm following your instructions, and all of a sudden now there's a famine, so I have to go someplace else. So they go to Egypt, and it's not simple to go to Egypt. Egypt is the capital of the worst deprecation, the worst mitos, the worst what would you call it?
Deprivation.
Did I say that deprivation? But I was going to say something,
Degenerate.
degeneration, and the worst feelings of lust, and kind of an anything goes. Oh, it's just like the United States in 2025. Oh, sorry.
Probably much.
The
Probably much
limitation,
worse. But
the limitation.
yeah, an anything goes kind of society, right? And so that's where they have to go. So what does Abraham do? He's got to have a plan. So his first plan is plan A. Sarah goes in a box, right? And the Chumash doesn't even say this, but that was plan A. Plan B was, oh, if we're caught, then say that you're my sister, right? Because if not, then they'll kill me and they'll grab you. So that's what happens. And they open the box at the, they had tariffs. Egypt's had tariffs. Ever heard of those? So they checked everything that was coming in so you wouldn't avoid the tariff. And out pops this lady. Whoa, who's the babe? So they bring her to the Egyptians bring her to Paro, and Hashem afflicted Paro with a disease. So Sarah was protected, and then Abraham was able to eventually save her, and they were able to go up from Egypt. They go up from Egypt and they come back. It says that Abraham was very laden with livestock, silver and gold, because he got that from Paro in order to leave, I guess. And so they came up and with all that he had with him, and they went to the south. It says that he proceeded on his journeys from the south, but really went to the south from Egypt going up. He's really going north, but he's going to the south. One way to describe this is he's going to the south of Eretz Israel.
Okay.
But another way, Rabbi Wasserman, the Rosh Yeshiva, the senior Rabbi Wasserman, told me many, many years ago that when it says here, and then also we see it with Rabbi Akiva, and we see it with other people, when it says that it goes to the south is also down. The south is humility. And so basically he went to a place of humility, which is telling us that because now that he's very wealthy, so the tendency would be that maybe he would be arrogant, but this is telling me he went to the south. So he went in a way of humility. He was humble. Just another way of looking at it. And so was Lot. Lot was wealthy also. And their shepherds argued with each other because Abraham made everybody muzzle their camels and take their camels all the way out to where nobody owned the land because he didn't want to steal anybody's land, even though the land was going to be given to him. But he still felt that he didn't want to steal from anybody's land. And Lot's shepherds said, why should we go to all that trouble? It's going to be Abraham's. Abraham's old. Lot's his successor. And so we work for the successor. So it's really our land. And so why should we go to all the trouble of going way, way out to nowhere to graze our flocks? We'll just graze them right here because it's ours anyway. So that's what they were arguing about.
Who might tipped off Abraham that like Pharaoh would like kill him to marry Sarah, and
he looked at the society and he saw what the society was like, and it was a very easy decision to make. Didn't even have to be a prophet for that.
okay.
But he trusts Hashem enough to protect him going in the furnace, but he doesn't trust him enough to go into Egypt.
Well, that's a very good point. Maybe he should have trusted Hashem and just said, well, I'll do whatever happens, happens. But we're also required to do hishtadlos. And so we have to balance out the two. So Abraham had to do a hishtadlos, which encompasses a plan A and a plan B, in order to not seem like he was relying on a miracle. Because, one of the things that Reb Dessler indicates is how do we know how much hishtadlos to put in? That amount, so it doesn't seem like to the observers that it's a miracle,
Thanks.
right? And so that's probably why he balanced it out with that kind of hishtadlos. In virtually every parsha, I once did a study of this, in every single parsha, there's a hishtadlos and a bitachon tension that goes through it. This may be the one here. There may be others. So he parts way with Lot because of this argument. And he says, you choose whichever way you're going to go, I'll go the other way. And Lot chooses to go to Sodom and Gomorrah because Lot really is into lust and he's into deprecation and he's into that. And Sodom and Gomorrah are known for being wild places. And so that's where he decided to go. Then what happens is that there's a world war, 4 kings versus 5 kings. And the 4 kings are really, stronger than the 5 kings, and they're ending up starting to defeat the 5 kings. And one of the 5 kings was the king of Sodom, where Lot lived. And so when he got defeated, they captured Lot. Someone came and told Abraham that Lot got captured. Og, who was a survivor of the flood, right, by hanging on to the end of the teva, right, a very, very long life. He gets rewarded even for a longer life because even though he had ulterior motives, this is your triangle again, Madeline, and that is that Og told Abraham that Lot got captured so that Abraham would come into the war, he'd get killed, and then Og would marry Sarah. So, why is it the triangle? Yeah, because there's 2 men and 1 woman, right? So both men want the woman. So it only works if one man gets rid of the other man. So we've had this in every single parsha so far, right? The snake, right?
So you know how like the American people, they keep bringing up we were with slaves, we owe them reparation. On this thing, Rabbi Meyer's talking about in Israel, how we took those kids and now this stuff. I mean, we don't have such a great ground we're standing on.
Okay. So Abraham, so Abraham wins the war. He gets Lot, and then the king of Sodom wants to pay him off. Abraham makes kind of a mistake here because the king of Sodom says, you take the booty and I'll take the people. And Abraham says, I don't want your booty, but he should have said, I'll take the people. He didn't say, I'll take the people. And so the people go back to Sodom, and then unfortunately, next week's parsha, they're gonna be killed. But so he makes a little bit of a mistake there, but he didn't want to say that the king of Sodom made him rich. Also, he has Melchizedek, who is, Rashi tells us, is Shem, is there, and he gives, Abraham gives him some bread and some wine because he was the priest of God, the Most High, that he was Shem, right? So he had the yeshiva of Shem Be'aver, and so he's called Melchizedek. Then the next part, which is in chapter 15. So it starts off that the first part of that, where Hashem assures Abraham after these events, meaning after the war, don't fear, you haven't used up all of your zechusim by winning this war. You haven't used up all of your merits. You still are okay. But then the next part of this chapter is really a throwback. It's really goes back because it goes to the covenant of the parts, the covenant of the pieces, where Abraham says to Hashem, how do I know that I'll inherit this land? I don't have any heirs. Is it going to go to my servant Eliezer, who was a Canaanite. So they're going to go to him. And so Hashem says, I'll come out with me and I'll take you and I'll show you that that's not the case. And he takes him out to the stars. So one of the explanations of that is that Hashem took Abraham above the stars to show him that the Jewish people are not bound by astrology. They're not bound by the mazolos, by the mazel that comes through these things that we, because of davening, because of tshuva, because of tzedakah, right? That we say, during the Yomim Noraim, tzedakah, tshuva, and tefillah, they rip off an evil decree. So therefore we can change things. We can go above the stars by that. So we go above the stars, and that's what Hashem shows him. And then he shows him the covenant of the pieces. And the covenant of the pieces, it says, but your descendants are going to be slaves for 400 years. Not exactly that way. I should be more technical about it. Know with certainty that your offspring will be aliens in a land not their own, and they will serve them and they will oppress them 400 years.
Is that because Abraham asked?
It may be. I mean, the unfortunately go into, why does this have to happen to the Jewish people? So it may be because Abraham had a little blemish in his emunah. And then he said to Hashem, you're telling me that my descendants are going to inherit this land, but I don't have any descendants. So how is that going to work? Seems like a legitimate question, but one that has pure faith. Well, I don't need any descendants in order for that to happen. If Hashem wants it to happen, it's going to happen. And he'll figure out the way to do it. I don't need to figure out how it's going to happen. I just need to know that it's going to happen. And maybe Abraham had a little flaw in his emunah, and therefore, since he's the founder of this new people, the Jewish people, which are going to be here in 2025 and beyond, they've got to have this flaw eliminated. And how does that happen? By putting us all in the furnace, so to speak, by putting us all in Mitzrayim and going through basically what at least was like an 85-year Holocaust, just a horrible thing to try and pull us and bring us together so that we had Actus and that we had total faith. We had to get to the point where there was no one that could save us except Hashem. And once we got to that, then we've eliminated that blemish of that question, how is this going to happen? Instead of just, I know it will happen. I don't need to know how it will happen.